Hi, everybody. Welcome to the, I think, 5th live Zoom class that we're doing for Silver Fork. My name's Kyle. I'm the Culinary Arts Director for the Silver Fork program at the Center on Halstead. Today we are going to be doing something a little different. As in the past, there was very distinct titles and recipes that we were working with. So for this, I was kind of searching for ideas, and I dug sort of deep, kind of, but I thought about my career, and I thought about one of the things that I get asked the most about cooking is, what do I cook at home? So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to show a dish today that is pretty simple, right? It's very, very straightforward. There's not too many components. There's not an overt amount of steps. The reason being is that, you know, we don't just have unlimited time. You know, none of us do. So, you know, a lot of times, you know, when I cook, you know, I'm not just sitting here just going through a huge long recipe or having mounds of ingredients that I'm going to take, you know, hours upon hours. Sometimes I just want to have like a nice simple dinner, and maybe I just want to watch some TV or read a book or something, you know. I do have other interests besides, you know, cooking stuff. So the first thing, you know, as kind of a funny, goofy thing, is the first thing you'll notice is I'm not in a chef coat, okay? When I cook dinner at home, I do not change into a superhero and put my coat on every time. I just usually cook in a shirt. Sometimes I have an apron, sometimes I don't, you know? So I'm trying to make this as kind of informal and just showing you kind of how my brain works when I just want to make dinner. And, you know, that's basically how we're going to start. So the first thing I'm going to do, you know, there's going to be two parts. First part is I'm going to be talking to everyone. Just kind of how I'm building the recipe in my head. I say recipe, but I just kind of think of it more of like a composed dish. I'm not necessarily weighing things out or measuring things. I'm just kind of looking at ratios. So, and then the second part, I'm actually going to make the whole dish from start to finish, with, you know, not really a whole lot of things done ahead of time. A few things are, and I'll go into that later on. But for the most part, start to finish. So you can kind of see that I'm not going to be spending way too much time on the dish from when I first start chopping to when I start cooking to when then I plate the dish. The one thing I did do is I do have the oven at 425, just so it's hot and ready to go. I don't want to wait for that. It's actually heating right now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to discuss the ingredients that we're working with, okay? So here they are. It's my little cornucopia. Nothing crazy, right? Some potatoes, red pepper, a carrot, an onion. Yeah, everything that you can find in the grocery store. I do have some raisins, some garlic, 1 clove of garlic, not a lot. I do have some herbs, cilantro and parsley, that I already picked. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then basically just kind of kitchen staples, right? A little bit of butter, oil, and then the kind of ingredient that ties all of this together where my idea for the dish came from, and that is berbere, which is an Ethiopian spice mix. So I'll talk a little bit more about that too in a sec. So as I begin the dish, right, as I think about what I want to cook, usually I start with like one ingredient. That ingredient can be a vegetable, it could be a starch, it could be a grain, you know, it could be rice, or it could be a protein. That's one of the things that we're most common with, or is that most common that we're familiar with, is kind of traditionally is like kind of the protein and then it builds out. You don't have to do it that way. There's tons of times I don't, but just for today, that's what we're kind of doing. So when I go to the store and when I go shopping, right, first thing I'm looking at is what I have at home. I don't just want to necessarily buy a ton of stuff. Now it's a little different, right, if we're doing like a very, very specific recipe. But I do have a whole shelf of like spices. I do have other cabinets that, you know, have stuff in them. So I just want to make sure that I'm using what I have. You know, it's, you know, so you don't just accumulate a ton of stuff. And also, you know, you're saving a little bit of money. So this is kind of silly because the one ingredient that I am using is right here, the spice mix, which is really small. It doesn't take up a lot of room. But that's where I kind of build it out. So I kind of look around what I have. I look at my spice mixes, I look at stuff, and then I kind of just slowly get inspired that way. I have an idea in my head of what I want to build out. And then a lot of times, like maybe things change when I go to the store and I see what's available. Keeping it very simple today, because everything I'm working with is a lot of stuff that is regularly available at a local supermarket, right? Potatoes, onions, stuff like that. So I get a general idea in my head, and then from there I kind of start, building it out, and I say, okay, I have this Ethiopian spice blend. I've eaten at Ethiopian restaurants before. A lot of times with this, pop up. Okay, there we go. My computer's crazy. So anyway, a lot of times when I've seen this spice used or had it in Ethiopian restaurants, it's a lot of times, I don't want to say the term stew, but there's a lot of times where it's cooked very slowly and it allows the flavors to build. And it's very great to use it like that, but it's also, in essence, it's a spice mix. So if you use it in the right amounts, you can just kind of sprinkle it on things, and the flavors will come out. So, next, so like I said, for today's thing, I'm building out from protein and then out, right? So I know I'm using the Ethiopian seasoning, and then I feel like chicken, right? Every once in a while, we all feel like chicken. So that's what I decided to go with. Now, my next thought process that I'm thinking of is, we're very familiar, chicken legs, thighs, breasts, wings. I decided, I'm just going to go with chicken breasts because start to finish, if I wanted to braise chicken legs, low and slow, start to finish, that takes 2 hours, maybe 2.5, depending on what your oven is at. So like I said, I'm talking about timing, right? So I don't necessarily want to have the oven going. I don't want to it's 2 hours, I'm not just going to sometimes I do, but I tend not to leave things cooking and then go for a walk. It's just danger, safety. But so anyway, chicken breasts, lean meat, it'll cook much quicker. It'll be tender. So that's the next thought process that I go to, right? It's start from one, then go to the other. And so I built it out that I'm doing a dish with chicken breasts and with the bear seasoning, right? So that's step 1 and 2. Now building it out with this bear spice. So this spice, this one that I have, there's all, of course, different ratios. Different people might have different ingredients in it. This one that I have, the first ingredient is Hungarian sweet paprika, and then cayenne, and then dried roasted garlic, salt, allspice, ginger, and cardamom. So the first 2 ingredients are paprika and cayenne. So that's going to be kind of tangy. The cayenne is going to have heat, right? So it's going to, it's going to have heat. It's going to be a little peppery. One of the reasons I do like this though is because it's not like your traditional, I don't want to say traditional, but it's not like a spice blend in terms of spicy, right? The last ingredients, ginger, allspice, and cardamom. Those are very familiar in sweet preparations as well, of course, apple pie, stuff like that. So I really like seasonings like this because it's kind of balanced out, right? You're gonna have that initial heat, and you're gonna have that tanginess and pepperiness and that pow almost, but then you have these mellow after flavors that are kind of sweet. Why am I talking about that? Because that kind of leads me into the next thing that I'm kind of thinking about when I'm building out the rest of the dish, right? So we have potatoes, right, and onions. Potatoes and onions are very versatile, right? You can cook all over the world. You can pair them with a ton of different stuff, right? So that's very neutral, so to speak. Potatoes are nice because they'll bulk up the satiety value. It'll fill you up a little more. But now, what I'm thinking about is what else am I going to put in there? So red pepper. This red pepper is massive too. I feel like Iron Chef, the old one where they fight the pepper. And then a carrot, right? So the thing is, so you have a red pepper and a carrot, right? If you're familiar, if you've cooked with them before, we know that, red peppers and carrots, as they cook, their natural sweetness will come out, right? So in my mind, I think about that natural sweetness. and I think, oh, that natural sweetness will probably pair well with those underlying like not hot spices, but those like savory but kind of sweet spices. And it does work. Like I have made this dish kind of before, or a variation of it. So that's kind of how my brain is working from, you know, you can see like the natural transition that I'm going with. And then finally, you know, one more thing, this is just kind of spruce it up, whatever, you know, give it a little pizzazz at the end, or sometimes like the bam factor, so I have the spice, the actual like cayenne, I have the spice, and then I have the more sweet spices, and then I have the sweetness of the carrots and peppers. So I have like a sweet and spicy balance. The next thing that I'm going to go for, the last thing, is something like herbaceous or earthy to kind of round it out. It's not going to be a predominant part of the dish. It's just going to be just a little bit where it'll like cut into things and brighten everything up. So I have picked parsley, picked cilantro, raisins, garlic. I know it's the second time I'm saying it, but and what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to make like a really rustic kind of pesto, so to speak, with those ingredients and some olive oil. And that's gonna, you know, we could call it a sauce, so to speak, but it's not like traditional, like, you know, like a ladle of sauce or anything. It's just going to be a little bit like around the plate, maybe a little on top. And then actually I was looking in the fridge, I have like half a lemon in there too. So I might just take that out and squeeze that on top. And that would be the other like fifth component, which would be, like that acid, right? That last bit of brightness. That's kind of start to finish how my brain is kind of working, right? Because I don't want to spend all day or hours upon hours necessarily over the stove all the time, right? Sometimes I just want to have dinner, but I want to make sure that I'm not just like, you know, throwing chicken in the oven or throwing something and then, you know, just saying like, oh, it's food, I just want dinner. You know, like I do try and take time to say like, oh, well, you know, I want to eat something that's nourishing, that tastes good, and that kind of like is appealing, you know, to the eye when I put it on the plate. So I just got to check my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything. The last thing, actually, then I'm just going to kind of get into it, and we'll see how long this takes. It shouldn't take too long. That's the whole goal. The other thing, too, that's very important with cooking, I, too, do not like to make a mess. That's number one. But number two, I don't necessarily want a pile of dishes, right? You know, you have this great dinner, right? And everyone's liking it. And then you turn and look at your sink and you're like, oh gosh, you know, like, of course it was worth it. But then like, there's that after part where you're like, oh, like you just kind of want to lean back and just be like, oh, that was good. That was great. And then you're like looking, you're like, oh, I have all these dishes to do. So that's the other part is I'm trying to not dirty up the whole kitchen. So, you know, like I said, the goal of the meal is that it doesn't take too long. We're not dirtying everything up. It's very simple. And once it's all plated and done, you know, it'll look good, it'll taste good, and it'll be filling. So, like I said, if you have any questions, Cindy is co-hosting on the meeting. So please feel free to type them in the little chat box, and then she can ask me. If you have any questions later, we can get to that. But now it's all about getting going, right? So, you know, I have like stuff kind of laid out, cutting board and stuff. But I clear a bunch of stuff out of here. Like there's usually a tea kettle and stuff, like trying to clear everything out. So I just want to make sure my knife is sharp, you know. And then, we're just going to go into it. I'm going to try not to work at a breakneck pace for anyone, right? I'm not going to like look at the clock and be like, oh my gosh, I got to move. But I do want to move quickly enough where it can kind of show like the natural flow of how I cook. So first things first. So, and the other thing, like I said, I tried not to do too much prep ahead of time because I wanted to show you how this went. So Y-shaped peeler, we're just going to take the carrot, We're gonna peel it. Okay. Gonna cut the top, the bottom off. So I have the oven at 425, right? So 425, you know, chicken breast goes in there. Yeah, maybe takes like 15, 20 minutes. Depends. Ovens are different, you know. So I do want to kind of think that I'm not gonna cut this carrot in half and say it's done, because that would take way too long. This would remain raw by the time the chicken was cooked. So we're also talking about like some knife cuts and how big to kind of cut everything. Make sure everyone can see. I can actually turn this. So in class, we kind of did a roll cut, right? If anyone, you know, doesn't know, you're just kind of rolling it. You know, I've also called them obliques, right? But it's very similar, right? Once again, this is simplicity. This is just a dinner that I'm going to have, right? I'm not going to like cut every single thing like in a perfect cube, right? I don't want to waste anything. I just kind of want, but it has to be roughly the same size so everything cooks at a very similar temperature, right? So I cut the carrot in half because one side is bigger than the other. And I'm just going to cut on a bias, which is, you can see my knife is not straight up and down, it's angled. And yeah, like I said, oblique, roll cut. They don't have to be exact. For the larger part of the carrot, I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm actually going to cut it in quarters, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Because it's flat now, it won't roll, so I'm just turning the carrot. Not turning the knife so much, it's just turning the carrot. I am cooking this meal too as a meal for two. I'm probably only going to plate up one of them, but it is a meal for two. Okay. So I have carrots. Oops. It happens. All right. Okay. Oblique cut, right? Not exact, not a fine dice or anything like that. Those are going to go in. I lost the carrot. Sorry.
Well, while you're doing that, Chef, I just want to point out that when you hit your knife to that steel, you're not sharpening, you're just honing your knife.
Oh yes, yeah, good call. Yeah, it's not. I'm not using a sharpening steel. I'm just honing the edge.
Just to make sure your knife is at its optimal use.
Yeah. So. Okay, so just cut the sides of the peppers. In the pepper, there's this little white rib, right? I'm just gonna take that out. You don't like, it's not absolutely necessary. It's just something that I've always done. Okay, so same thing. Right, I'm not necessarily going for a perfect dice of anything, but I just do want it to be kind of the same size as the carrot, just relatively, you know. I might not need this whole pepper, so that's just fine. When I'm doing this, the pepper, the carrot, you know, the onion, everything, it can all go in together, like at the same time. It's totally fine. I am going to probably cut the potato just a teeny bit smaller because it's harder and it'll take a little longer to cook. It'll be the last thing I cut. So onion, I only use half an onion. I'm going to take off all the stuff that's on the outside. A little container, keep the other half of the onion in, seal it up so it stays fresh. And then, yeah, like we've gone in class, we've gone over dicing an onion, you know, down, whichever way you want to do it. I tend to go down first. But like I said, nothing too crazy exact. So just roughly the same size. Okay. When I get to the end, I can do it like that. And then potatoes, you know, I had 3 pulled, but maybe I'll only use 2. Like I said, I'm just going to these.
And what kind of potatoes do you have, Chef?
These are just like, they're just called like white potatoes. I like them a lot. They're not like, they look like Yukon Golds, but they're just white. I always get them at the store. I like them.
Yeah.
They're a really great versatile potato, and they're just a little less expensive than a Yukon Gold. But it is also, I find it to be it holds its shape. It holds its structure better than just an Idaho potato. So
if you watch my video on potatoes, you'll understand why.
yeah. Water content, starch content.
Starch.
Yeah.
This would be considered a waxy potato. Low starch, slightly higher moisture. Better for holding its structure.
Okay, so there we go. Vegetables are cut, right? Huge part of the dish is done, right? That took maybe 5-6 minutes. Okay. I'm gonna grab the chicken. So what I am using here is I am using boneless chicken breast, but with the skin on. Okay. You can get these at the store. I actually ended up, just because I want to use all the parts, I got a whole chicken because I saved the carcass and I'll make chicken stock and all that stuff. It's another good thing to do. You don't have to do it all the time, but every time you want chicken, you don't have to buy a whole chicken. We all don't have massive freezers to keep stock in. But probably about like once every month or so, maybe 2 months, I will buy a whole chicken. I'll also get some chicken feet, and I'll make a stock. And then I will, sorry, I'm off camera, but then I will have stocks, right? I got brown chicken stock, I have white chicken stock, I have lobster stock, I have veal stock. So those are always good to have just on hand, right? You do it and you freeze it, and you can freeze it in even smaller increments. It is that little touch that'll make it, kind of change the complexion of a dish, give it a lot more flavor, a lot more depth. So the chicken breast, I'm going to season with just salt, not pepper, because I'm going to put that spice blend on. Now, really quick, when you look at these spice mixes, this is really important. Always make sure to look if there is salt in here and where it is listed in the ingredients. Anytime you read an item that has multiple ingredients, the most predominant one, the one that has the most, is going to be listed first, and then so down to the end. So whatever's last, it has the smallest amount of it, right? So there is salt in here. It is listed as the 4th ingredient, right? So I am actually going to season this chicken, but I'm not going to season it as aggressively, or I shouldn't say aggressively, just as I normally would. So I'm just going to season both sides with just a little salt.
And a good way to check to see how salty it really is just taste the seasoning mix too.
Yeah.
If you're not sure of like how salty it really is, just taste it. Just a little.
Yeah.
Little dip of the finger.
Yeah, just a little dip of the finger. And you will taste you will taste the salt, right? It won't be aggressive, but if you ever taste 2 spice mixes, one with salt, one with not, you will taste the difference. So I normally get one of my hands kind of messy, but I'll just fine. So then, so there's the chicken, right? Then the spice. So I'm actually going to use the spice, some on the chicken and then some on the vegetables when I cook it. So.
And Chef, we got a question about where'd you get the spice blend? Where can you find it?
I got this at a place called, I think it's Savory Spice, which is in Lincoln Square, which is on the northwest side more north than west. You know, you can find the stuff online too, but there's also like there's Savory Spice, and there's in Old Town there's the Spice House. Okay, so even if you don't want to go there, like even if you don't want to go and buy anything, I highly suggest going into the Spice House. The reason I suggest it because it's in Old Town, it's more, it's closer to downtown, it's more centralized location for people around the city. But just walking in there, it's just the aroma of right when you walk in. It's truly amazing. And then, you know, like for this one, yeah, like Savory Spice, there's of course we all know there's tons of spice blends out there. You know, by my house, like up in Andersonville, which is just like right, you know, over there. There's also a place called Mid-East Bakery on Foster. They have their own spice blends. It's the Cuisine of the Levant. It's really an awesome space. Same kind of thing. You walk in and just like all the aromas are just like completely different. They're all new. Like I don't want to say new, but like they're just different, right? So so yeah, there's that. I'm gonna wash my hands and then we have to go. I gotta transfer the computer over so we can see what I'm doing on the stovetop. Okay, so 1 second.
Spice blend has actually gotten pretty popular and become more common, so you can find them more places now than just specialty shops if you're looking for it. But yeah, and sometimes you can even find recipes to blend your own if you've got all the core spices to it.
Okay, so salt over. Of course, we're gonna have to do this, and then I've got to play around to make sure our angle is good. Sorry about the Cloverfield style, you know.
Smoother than last time, Chef.
Yeah. Okay. So as you can see so far, you know, I have a container with the chopped vegetables in it and the cutting board, the knife, right? So far, not too much of a mess, right? What I have here, so I have just a pan. This is a Calphalon, right? It's copper. You know, I haven't done the best of it, but you know, whatever, it's copper. And then I have just a quarter sheet pan, right? So there's that. I'm going to turn the heat on to high for this. I'm going to bring my stuff over first. So as you can see, chicken, right? I didn't do both sides. I just did one. Okay. And what my goal is I want to sear the chicken and I want to get that skin really nice and crispy. And then I'm going to put it on this and then I'm going to cook the vegetables. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that too, in terms of when people ask how I cook or at home. Okay. We'll need some tongs, a wooden spoon. I don't know if I've shown you this on these videos before, but this spoon, it broke a long time ago. So got this little sharp end and I haven't gotten rid of it because it's like, I call it my vampire spoon. You know, I could be stirring and then, you know, sorry, I'm just trying to fill up time. Okay. So I want to make sure this is nice and hot. And then I guess I could talk about a little bit, I mean, I can show it, but a lot of times when I guess like cooking at home, like techniques, right? Very common. People are like, oh, how would you do this? How would you do this? It is very dependent on what you are cooking, right? Whether it's like chicken, if you want to braise chicken legs versus chicken breasts, there's different cooking times and everything. But basically what I tell a lot of people to do is if you're cooking like with meat, like chicken breasts or steak or something like that, and you're just cooking it in a pan and then you're going to put it in the oven. I basically tell everyone just like these steps, and it's very common. It's not a secret, right? You take your pan, you get it hot. You season your meat, right? Put it on the pan. You sear the meat. You put it in another container. You use the same pan that you cook the meat in to at least kind of start getting the vegetables cooked a little, right? Now, let's say they're like, you just want to stir fry it, right? Okay, maybe it doesn't take that long, right? I do have potatoes that are going to take a little bit longer, but there's going to be flavor, the fond, F-O-N-D, the fond in that pan, right? And I always tell people, I'm like brown the meat or sear it, but I always say like brown the meat, take it out, add your veggies, put it all together, throw it in the oven, just like season it, salt and pepper. It's like it'll be good. Like it really will. It's super super simple. You can make it as complicated as you want, but like that concept, like hot pan, sear the meat, take it out, add the veggies, bring everything together. It'll work. Like unless you burn it or over season it, right? It'll be okay. So my pan's getting hot. Ugh. Just
Oh,
grapeseed oil. I tend to sear a lot in grapeseed oil. I'll use I will use I will use olive oil for other applications. But so pan hot, not a ton of oil, just enough. I forgot.
yeah, and grapeseed oil, remember guys, is that it's a what we call a neutral oil, right? It has no flavor. It's got, high smoking point. So that's why I have different oils. Olive oil has a very distinct flavor, can be very distinct. Sometimes you don't want that in whatever you're making.
Okay, one dirty dish so far. Like dish, one dirty dish.
And so guys, I hope you guys are noticing that Chef Kyle isn't doing anything crazy, right? These are all concepts that we would have learned in class, our searing, our fond, our roasting, our adding. This is just kind of taking those and making them maybe even a little bit more casual than usual,
Um,
or not even more than usual. But it's just, you know, these are the skills that you can use every day, whether it be professionally or personally.
I'm gonna try not to get shot by any chicken fat. um, yeah, but that is like a super important thing to remember. Like Cindy was saying, like it's the cooking is not just for work, right? You want to use simple things that you can use at home, right? It's really a lot about techniques and ratios. Those two things are the like intuition part of cooking. So do you see? Okay, it's a little dark, it's fine. It's just like caramelizing a spice mix,
Yeah, guys, whenever you season stuff, especially things that have like chili or, anything like that, and you put it on there and you put it on a high heat, it's going to look burnt or super dark. It doesn't mean that it is burnt. It just means the spices are cooking before your chicken skin or whatever it is you're cooking.
Okay. So chicken breast, skin side down, seared. The other side, I am not going to sear as long. Okay. I really don't want to dry it out. Okay. Now I have, this is not a non-stick pan, and I'm putting potatoes in here. Even though it's hot, they're going to stick a little. So I'm just going to add a little bit of butter. It's going to sizzle right away. I don't want it to get too brown. So I put this stuff in, the veggies in. It's going to lower the temperature of the pan. And I just want to make sure they get coated.
And so essentially what Chef is doing is he's not just obviously starting the cooking. Remember, he's picking up that fond and essentially deglazing the pan with the vegetables. The moisture from the vegetables is going to pick up some of that fond that has built up on the bottom. I mean, that was very quick. It's still, it's still there and you don't want to leave that stuff behind. So remember that you can still deglaze. It doesn't have to be with stock or alcohol or anything like that. Vegetables have water in them and those can deglaze a pan as well.
Now, same thing, right? I'm just going to season. I'm not going to season too aggressively because I'm going to put more of that spice mix in. And this is one of these times where it's like, if it looks like there's a little, like just a little extra fat in there, it's okay because I'm putting that spice mix in, and that's going to kind of absorb some of that fat a little bit. Sorry, runaway onion.
Oh my gosh.
And this is what happens when I cook at home, right? You know, you know. So one of the things too now with the size of all the vegetables and how they're cooked, they're still probably going to take a little bit longer than the actual chicken breast to cook. So I'm actually leaving them in the pan a little bit longer. I'm not just like coating them and tossing them. I really also want to get try and get a little caramelization on them, right? Not a ton. And actually, I tried this out the other time. I just tried a few weeks ago or something. I'm actually going to put a little, in a little bit, I'm going to put a little water in here. And so technically, they're not dry roasting, but there's a little of the water, and it will mix with the chicken juices that come out. And it'll also kind of gently steam it. But it'll still, because the chicken breast skin will be above it, the skin will stay really, really crisp. But that liquid will also help cook the vegetables quicker. And it'll be like a little bit of the last bit. I'm just knocking on wood the smoke detector doesn't go off.
Do you have a hood, chef?
Yeah, I do, but it doesn't work well. It just doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it's been a point of contention since we got the kitchen redone.
Chef, okay. What size would you say you kind of cut everything? Like a large dice? Large, medium?
I mean,
I know you did different cuts, but
yeah. Here's a potato, right? Medium,
yeah, roughly.
Medium-ish, a little bigger than medium.
I'd say you were in the large range.
Yeah. This is good, right? You can see, I think. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
You're getting some nice, brown, some deep color on there. So, yeah. Just adding a little water, it'll help to glaze it a little bit more. I had to open up the door, get some airflow in here. Okay. Like I said, this is going to deglaze the pan, and then also, the little liquid that we're getting. I mean, the liquid in there. So I poured water in there. It's not clear, right? It's like a brown color from the spice and getting that fond off the bottom. That's just flavor. That's all it is. But this liquid will also help. It'll make it so the vegetables aren't purely roasted, right? I did get some caramelization out, some light browning on them, so that flavor will come out. But it won't be really hard. And then it'll also accelerate the cooking of the vegetables when they go on this pan with the chicken. And then also that chicken juice will go into whatever liquid remains. It'll all kind of steam together, but like I said, the skin will stay crispy. So.
Yeah, and essentially, so not only the heat that you've kind of created, that roasting, pan sear, or however you want to phrase it, but that little bit of water helps kind of break down the vegetables that much more.
Yeah.
So what happens when you roast is you're taking all the water out, and it can make the vegetables almost seem tough sometimes because you've just taken so much moisture out. Whereas this is you've added water in, helps soften everything, and then you're going to get the roasty flavor as well.
Okay, so like I said, right? Not necessarily how I've always cooked in restaurants. Okay, I dumped it. I kind of spooned it. Okay. And now I'm just doing a little bit to make it kind of pretty. Because that's the thing. You don't just want to dump it and then just throw it in the oven. I always think it's like when you take it out of the oven, like what is it going to look like, right? So we can kind of see, this is hot, but you can kind of see, right? Just 2 chicken breasts surrounded by a bunch of vegetables. This is going to go right in the oven. Okay, so now, Cloverfield style, got to go back. There we go. All right. Per usual, I'm always sweating. Okay, so I have not been keeping a timer on anything, right? But everything's cooking, right? Like chicken's in, veggies are in, everything's done, right? Of course, I'm talking and, you know, Sydney is chiming in too, so we're explaining things to everyone. But as you can see, like start to finish, you know, I want to say that was, you know, maybe 15 minutes. And now it's in the oven. While it's in the oven, I'll work on the last part. Like I said, the BAM factor, or whatever you want to call it, which is going to be just this little pesto. So the first thing that I am going to do is just take a garlic clove. I'm just going to peel it. FYI, if you have whole garlic, you know, don't just smash it, actually peel it. I have a garlic roller, but I'm not using it. But also, just garlic especially, if you're going to keep it whole, right? Don't put it in the fridge. It makes it really, really hard to peel. Okay, so I'm going to take the garlic, and I'm going to take just a little bit of raisins, right? So kind of show this. So there's kind of like the ratio, right? Not a lot of garlic. We're going to add herbs and everything, but so while that is cooking, right, I'm laying the raisin down and I'm just kind of julienning it. I'm not, you know, I just want to make sure it's thin. And yes, they are sticky and they'll stick to your knife and everything, but it's all right. It'll all come together. So yeah, like julienne, it's still kind of rough. Then I'm just going to kind of turn it. Run my knife through one more time.
Very similar to how you would chop herbs.
Yeah.
Or at least how I taught you how to chop herbs.
And then this is going to be, it's going to get finer.
Chef, your raisins look very plump.
Yeah, they're huge. I don't know where they came from. I don't know if you can like, I don't know if these are like GMO raisins. I don't know. So yeah, they're huge. So yeah, so I have this kind of like I said, I julienne and then I ran the knife through again. I'm gonna do the same thing with the garlic. And one thing I'm gonna kind of do, it's all gonna come together, which I'll show you later. But I am gonna kind of keep everything to one side for now. Like I'm just, you know, or like 60%, whatever you want to call it. Right, I'm just doing that. Okay. Okay, now I feel like it's that time in the chapter where it's like learning time, but like where the little light bulb is on the side of the page. But anyway, so herbs, right? This is important. All right. Well, to me it is. A lot of times people ask, you know, oh, what are you cooking? Blah, 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 you know, whatever. I always say, I was like, get fresh herbs. It really makes a difference in a dish. Like it really, really does, right? At the end of the day, like it'll brighten things up. You know, depending on how you use them, you know, there's thyme and rosemary, which are heartier. And then there's lighter ones like, you know, cilantro and mint. And, you know, you have to kind of pick and, you know, of course, choose when you're going to actually use it, whether it's at the beginning or the end. But they really do make a difference, right? What happens is, what I see a lot is that people will buy a bunch of parsley, right? It comes on the rubber band, you know, and it's there. And people take off what they need for the recipe, use that, great, awesome. Then take the whole bunch of herbs and just throw it in the fridge. That is a surefire way to have your herbs go bad very, very fast, and then you just kind of waste them. Parsley, cilantro, when I get them, girlfriend hates me for this, but whatever, it's the rule of the house. We get these herbs, we pick them right away, right? We pick them right away. Maybe not completely, like this parsley still has some stem on it. That's okay, because there's water in that stem. It'll keep it alive. It'll keep it fresh longer. But put it in a container with a little, wash it, pick it, wash it, let it dry a little bit, put it in a container with some paper towel at the bottom. This parsley, trust me, I'm not trying to say it's not spoiled or anything. This parsley I got last week and it's still fine. It's bright green, it's totally fine. This cilantro, same thing, we got last week. It'll last longer, right? Herbs don't cost a lot of money, but it's the thought process of just like getting something, using a little bit of it and then just throwing it away. For me, it's kind of like a mental block. But so I'm going to use basically equal parts. Like I said, there's still some stems on this parsley. I purposely kept those on so they had a source of water, so they could stay fresher a little bit longer. Probably going to use all this parsley. Remember, this is curly parsley. I don't know. It's whatever I feel like. I kind of like curly parsley. You know, reminds me of like old-timey steakhouse stuff. But I did actually work for a chef who, you know, we use curly parsley, flat leaf parsley. And curly parsley we always use for like the Greek salad with, you know, cucumbers, feta, and stuff like that. We would never really use curly parsley in like finishing a sauce or anything. It was only for like raw, like salads or stuff like that. So this cilantro's fine. So, like I said, maybe equal parts. Maybe we'll go a little less cilantro. Cilantro tends to have a stronger flavor to it. Okay, so we'll see where we're at, right? You know, got the rough, like this quasi-rough garlic and raisins kind of over to one side, and then the parsley and cilantro. Okay. So what I kind of do, and if you saw this in class, you know, if you weren't and you're just joining and you haven't been through the class before, what I'm going to do with the parsley, I'm not just going to randomly just start chopping, right? What I'm actually doing is that I'm using like my talon, my little evil talon, right? So I'm bunching it all together and then holding it. And I'm julienning. I'm just trying to get it thin, right? It doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be minced or anything yet. It's going to be, just not yet. But I'm just trying to get that first wave of the parsley, right? And then I'm just going to turn a little, once more through, okay? And then I'm just going to move that over with the garlic and the raisins. Okay, cilantro, same thing. Just thinly slicing it. And then I'm just going to turn it. Knife once through. Now I'm going to mix all this together. I'm going to start running my knife through once. The raisins are going to be sticky. Now this whole time while I'm doing this, the chicken's cooking, right? It's balancing everything out. The first thing I do is I'm not starting to make this sauce right away. I want to make sure I get the chicken going. Okay. Now is the part where I'm actually going to start chopping it finer, but I don't want to bruise the heck out of it, right? I don't want to go too crazy. I don't want to lose all the flavor into the cutting board. So you saw I did that for maybe like 30 seconds or so.
You don't want green mush on your cutting board.
So now, you know, this is very, you know, I don't want to say old-timey, but kind of is. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take just a pinch of salt. I'm just going to put it in there. Right? Okay, next part. So I use grapeseed oil to sear. It has a higher smoking point. Next thing up, extra virgin olive oil, right? Also, so I don't know if I mentioned this already, but yeah, so I'm putting raisins in there. And a lot of, I don't want to lump everything in together. But in Ethiopian and a lot of North African food, they do use a lot of dried fruits in savory cooking. So that was the reason I picked the raisins. It wasn't just for the sweet factor. It is for the fact that it kind of goes in with the Berber seasoning. Dried apricots too are a lot of times used. Okay, so I'm just going to take this oil, right? And I'm just going to pour it directly on this. The herbs are going to start, the chopped herbs are going to start to absorb it. But now, as opposed to using like a food processor or something like that, now I can really chop. The oil kind of acting like almost like a quasi preservative. Actually needs a little bit more. But this is like, this is like another version of like mortar and pestle, so to speak, but I don't have one, so this is, the next best thing. So now my goal is to get it really fine. Like I said, we got that little bit of salt in there, a little bit. And usually I'm pretty good at multitasking, but now I'm just kind of focused on the task at hand, so to speak. So, and now that I'm doing this, now like the raisins are, they're sticky, but now in the oil they're a little less. The oil is mixing with everything. That's kind of like protecting. I'm not getting, my cutting board is not like Cindy said. Green mush, no good. The oil, amazing. The oil like keeps everything together. Okay, so this is the last part of the dish, right? This is the part that is going to have the herbaceousness, a little bit of sweetness, a little pungency of the garlic. Okay. So now I have a little special container right here. Make sure this, when you do this, like, don't just like really try and scrape, because there's going to be residual oil left on the cutting board. And it's got a lot of flavor in it too. So really try and get it. All right. But yeah, like Cindy said, green mush is no good. There's no green mush on this. Just oil. Okay. So now, I'm trying to show you this later too, if I can keep everything together. And now, yeah, this is like the one time now before the dish is ready. I'm gonna wash the cutting board. So as you can see, like, I hope everyone can hear me, but as you can see, like, I wasn't going and washing stuff over and over again. I'm gonna try and create like a little pile so everyone can see.
Yeah, I think you had like 2 dishes, chef, and then you kind of put everything away, like right, your half an onion, your red pepper. As you went, you kind of put them in containers.
And that's another thing, people ask, like, cooking at home. Yeah, you know what? If I spent most of my life like working and cooking, so I like practice makes perfect. But cleaning as you go is super important. It just, and everyone knows this. If you were in the class, you knew this from being in the class. But like we always try and really, hammer that home. to say like, keep cleaning as you go, keep cleaning as you go. Makes everything much easier later on. There's this. So I still have cilantro left, so I just kind of changed the container. I put new paper towel in there. Here are the peppers I didn't use. Here are the onions I didn't use. And it's like, sorry. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like I have leftover stuff. Omelet time, like easy peasy. Like that's the great stuff. Like you don't necessarily need to use every single part of it. So that goes there. So here's this. Can stretch across the whole kitchen. So see, right? It's just like a pesto. It's like a paste, right? There's a little extra oil, but like as you mix that up, I'm actually thinking it's a little dry right now, because when I put this on the dish, I don't just want to have like lumps of pesto. Like I want to like kind of be able to spread it or like have it drizzle a little. But yeah, that's like exactly it. And of course there's extra virgin olive oil, so that's going to give it another kind of flavor or another level of flavor. Yeah, as you can see, so I started talking at the beginning of this video, right? Which was just after 1. So it's 2. So far, here are, this is the dishes that I've dirtied so far, plus the pan over there, so it's not a ton. I'm going to check on the chicken really quick. This is perfect, right? And I mean, this like also, we're going to edit this, so if we want to take this part out, it's not a big deal, right? But the chicken is just about there. It's like almost there. And this gives me just enough time to clean these dishes. So I'm going to turn my back to you. I'm just going to get this stuff done. It's all part of the plan of cooking at home simply, not taking too much time.
And remember, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Gladly. So far, everything seems to be making sense, so that's good.
Now, I will say that, actually, let me just do this real quick. And maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. I never asked. Maybe Cindy, if you could talk about this a little more, if it's more in her wheelhouse. I don't know. But so one of the things I mentioned was the simplicity of what we're making. The goal of not dirtying a bunch of dishes. Making sure it doesn't take a copious amount of time to make this. Making sure it looks good. And then the final part, I am not a nutritionist, so I can't really speak to all the nuts and bolts about what I'm making. But for me, we all know that, you go outside your house, like there's tons of processed food everywhere. There's tons of fast food, there's tons of stuff like that. I know for a fact that, like, one of the things kind of irks me once in a while is there, a constant like push, like boneless, skinless chicken breast, boneless, skinless chicken breast. I eat boneless, skinless chicken breast once in a while, like I don't think it's like absolutely awful. But I do know and I'm not generalizing this, but I want to say for most people, like leaving the skin on the chicken breast, it is the amount of fat or cholesterol, whatever you want to say. It's like the amount of those things is very, very negligible on something like this. You also saw when I put the vegetables in the pan, I used like, oil, right? Grapeseed oil. We have some olive oil here. I did use a little bit of butter, right? But I wasn't deep frying anything. Okay. I'm not saturating anything in butter. So when I say like kind of balanced, good dish, I'm not coming out and saying like it has this many calories and this much protein and blah, blah, blah. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, we're eating a lean protein with a little bit of fat on it. Overall, we're eating vegetables, which is good. With just a little bit of butter, right? You saw there's water in there. And then we're using a little bit of oil. But like overall, this is like a balanced dish. I tend to try and pull back more and more about eating too much protein, actually. But something like this, if someone has severe allergies or severe intolerance or something, yes, like you always want to make sure of that. But when people ask me about kind of eating healthy and stuff, I'm like, for me, I think just for a lot of people, it's like, well, you know what? Like if you have something like deep fried, you just don't eat it every day, right? You have it once in a while, you like balance things out. And it's same thing with like, a fattier piece of meat or something like that. It's like bacon, right? I think I talked about this before, but it's like bacon's awesome. I love bacon, right? But it's not good to eat every day, right? It should kind of be like a little bit of a treat, right? Maybe once a week or something like that. Everyone's different. Everyone processes things different, but from the nutritional aspect of this dish, like I've been cooking stuff like this, these dinners at home, like I've been making, like I feel fine. Like I wake up, I have energy, so Cindy, I don't know if you wanted to, chime in on anything. Cause I don't know. I just like when I say nutritious, I'm just like, this seems nutritious.
Yeah, everybody, yes, I agree. Everybody's body processes things differently. Everybody has different nutritional needs for sure. Some diets, you should be having red meat more often, depending on what your dietary needs are. But yes, lean proteins like you're doing, again, that chicken skin, even if you just left it on for flavor and you want to take it off before you eat it, that's fine. Colorful foods. So chef, you've got your reds, your browns, you've got some green in there. The more colors you have, the better. The fact that, again, very low amount of fat. Fat is still needed in your diet, guys. Just it's not a lot of fat. That's the key. Moderation is your friend for sure. Yes, bacon is totally fine to eat, but not every day, and not, a pound of bacon every time you have some. So it's just important to have more kind of what chef is making right now, which is, fairly well balanced. You have a starch with your potatoes, you have some vegetable, you have a green, you have a bit of fat, and you have protein, you have some sodium. Those are all important things that you actually need in your diet. You just have to watch how much of everything that you are eating.
Yeah, and that's that's another thing too. It's like, and I know with everything that's happened in the past year, pandemic, and basically, the world in the past year. But it really is like, even going out to eat, like I try and limit like going out to eat too. It's delicious. It's awesome. It can be really convenient. There's a lot of factors to think of it, but like, you kind of like, sometimes you're like, I really don't know like how they made this taste so delicious. It just is. And it's like, that little bit of like not knowing, it's like, that's the stuff that if you're doing it every day, or on a, every other day basis, you'll kind of feel that over time. So I'm going to go ahead and look. I think the chicken is done. Okay. See if I can get this. Yep, feels done. Okay, so let me try and move this so we can see it better. So like I said, right, like presentation, like you want to come out of the oven, right? Just kind of look, like I said, there's chicken, on a bed of vegetables, right?
Juices at the bottom.
Uh-huh. Juices at the bottom, nothing's really dry. I actually probably could have seasoned the vegetables a little bit more, but like I said, you always want to be very, very careful because you start with good product, right? Start to finish, it's probably going to be pretty good unless you burn it or over season it. So I'm always very cautious with that, especially roasting vegetables.
Well, and plus, chef, you have a sauce that you also add a little extra salt to, so sometimes you got to think about those things as well.
Yeah.
You can always add more, guys. You can't always take it out.
Yes, and that is that is the one thing. Cool. Now we're done. We just want to let this sit for a minute or two. Nothing.
Right. So remember that we always want to rest our proteins, but also even just the vegetables. Sometimes they take a second to steam out. They also can reabsorb some of that moisture that's sitting in.
Yeah. Yeah. It smells like. Hey, when I cut the top of my head off. But...
It looked like you were about to tell us, like, here, come, smell.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Like my last part of this was like, guys, after 5 times of doing this video and everyone throughout history wanting it, I figured out smell-o-vision. Like, I actually did it. So, yes, I've been walking through stuff. Cindy's been talking too, right? Take out, probably whatever it was, 15-minute spiel at the beginning, right? All the little talking in between. This is start to finish, maybe, 30, 35 minutes, right? And, if this little pesto, right? It's not necessary. Like, you don't 100% need it, right? You maybe just chop some herbs and just throw it, mix it in at the end anyway. The takeaway, one of there's a lot of takeaways, but one of them too is to show you, like, if, I wasn't necessarily sitting here, and, doing the video, if I was just like cooking this exact thing, right? I actually had time to do that other hand, but, I can go now and I can say, oh, I'm hurting for an example, so I'll just say it's like, oh, you know what? Let me see what's on TV tonight, all right? Or let me go take the garbage out. Like, the stuff is cooking. It's totally cool. Like, I can do and take care of other stuff. Like I said, when I came up with this idea, I just thought, like, a lot of times people are like, what do you cook, or how do you make such good food? And I'm like, well, practice, right? It does take practice. Like what I just did, yes, it seems like easy, but it does take some time to do. But I have heard, consistently a lot, throughout the years, people saying it's no fault. It's not anyone's fault. They're like, I just don't have time to do it. Right. I just don't have time to do it. So that's why when I was making sure not to try and burn my face when I was talking to everyone, I was trying to say, like, it's simple, for me, I try to tell everyone, it's like the pan I have, like, get the pan, get it hot, sear the meat, take it out, put it on a tray. Cook the vegetables, get that fat in there, put it back on the tray, or put the vegetables on the tray with the protein, put it in the oven, cook, like chicken breast, cook it for like 20 minutes or something. You can go do other stuff. You go take a shower, you could vacuum, I like playing online Scrabble, so I could play a game online Scrabble, right? There's tons of stuff there's tons of stuff you can do. I completely understand that every single person wants to, of course, really, really eat well. There's an accomplishment. It just feels good. But I really do understand. It's like, not everyone has just copious amounts of time, right? Commuting, you go, like, get done with work, going downtown. It's like a 45-minute commute on the train, right? That eats into your time to be able to do it. So, just always trying to find, like, really simple things. I always suggest, like, looking for recipes online. But just remember, like, techniques and ratios, like the technique, like, sear the meat on a pan. When I say sear the meat, I don't mean like a short rib, because that takes hours to cook, but like something that will only take, 20, 30 minutes. Like, sear the meat, vegetables in the pan, caramelize, do whatever, put it in with the meat, put it in the oven. It sums up, as long as you don't over season or burn it, it'll be fine. So now, right, last part, this sits for a second, okay? Let me find and some cool stuff. Now, and this was really great. I was really happy Cindy brought this up too, because like I said, there are juices in the pan right at the bottom. This wasn't a complete dry roast, right? It's like a weird combo cooking, right? The skin is still crisp, but there's still juices at the bottom, right? You definitely like get those juices, like, you know, mix them up, you know? This spoon sucks, hold on. It's like cooking spoon. So, you know, it's on a towel right here, you know, and now I'm doing. Now this would be really good just on its own, but that Bear seasoning, it's really awesome. Like it tastes good. Like there's tang, there's heat, and then because like the vegetables, like the juices coming out of the peppers and carrots and mixing with everything, it's like a sweetness, right? So I hope you kind of see.
It's almost like it creates its own sauce too.
Yeah, and like yeah, you could see like and trying. It's not a lot, right? Like it's not a lot. There is like a little. There is a little sauce. So I'm just gonna plate one, right? Because you know now, making it look good, right? So you can play around however you want, whatever kind of plates you want, right? I am kind of a traditionalist with like dead center of the plate. The eye a lot of times is drawn like that, especially at home, right? You're not. I don't have squirt bottles and crazy, you know. I don't have like a garnish station, right? It's simple, right? We're just trying to have a good simple meal. We're not trying to stress out about it either, right? So I have that. I'm going to take a chicken breast now, cutting chicken. Right? I think we've done it in class, or I'm sure you've probably seen it, you know, like bias cut, you know, that's one way to do it. You can do it any way you want, right? You can cut, go crazy, whatever. I do, one of the ones I do kind of like is top, but, you know, here's the chicken breast, right? Is slicing it right down the middle. Nice and steaming hot. You know, well, it sort of worked, but well, whatever. We'll play around with it. We'll, you know, like I said, I'm really not trying to, you know, impress a critic who's going to put me out of business or something like that, you know. So I cut the chicken, then I just kind of layered it. I'll show you that. And then the last thing is, you know, the other reason too, guys, I wanted to do this too, you know, most cooking shows are like a half hour. Obviously, this is going to be about an hour and a half, you know, but we covered a lot of stuff. I showed you the other thing we did, start to finish, right? I didn't have someone like hanging out down here just handing me already cut vegetables, right? I did it. I showed it start to finish, right? So okay, kind of getting the light on it, but you see, right? I mean, you know, is it going to win any awards for, you know, Plate Magazine or anything like that? No, but like, you know, if I put this down in front of someone, they're going to be like, wow, this looks really great. There's colors, like, and I love, Cindy, you mentioned that too, like colorful foods equal foods that are good for you. Okay. But like there's vibrant, you know, there's vibrant colors on the plate. You know, there's orange and red, and then this green, and then you have this like brown crusty part, the chicken skin, right? So it like visually pops, right? And then when we eat it, right, you know, what we're hoping for is the same thing. We want to have like spice, you know, from the seasoning, have the sweetness of the vegetables, obviously the protein, and then that little bit of herbaceousness, and a little bit of fruitiness and garlic from that pesto. And that's just kind of it. So at this point, I can just ask like, pop up. Yeah, so at this point, if anyone has any questions, but that's basically it, guys. So, I mean, like I said, that was, an hour and 20 minutes, eliminating, me blabbering on about all this stuff. But when you really think about it, it's like, that's how you can throw together like a decent looking plate of food, like probably, 45 minutes or so. And that's not too bad. And it's full. There's probably like, I don't know, 12 to 14 ounces on a plate. If you're doing this just for you, you still cook two. You have one for tomorrow. Good to go. So that's it, start to finish. That's how I cook at home a lot. Okay, I probably can speak for Cindy on this too. Every day when we come home, we are not like pulling out a volume of cookbooks saying like, what shall I prepare tonight? No, it's not like that. Like, it's just like, I just want to eat something that tastes really good. I can whip together and me and my girlfriend can sit and we could like it and then we could have time talking. I'm not just over here slaving away. So, yeah. If anyone has any questions, but that's basically me out of my Chef White's cooking at home. And I hope everyone enjoyed everything. I don't see any questions. So, everyone have a good day. I hope the weather is treating everyone a little bit better. And hopefully we'll all be able to see each other in person soon enough. But thanks a lot. I'm Kyle again from Silverfork. And thank you so much. Thank you, Cindy, for co-hosting again. And,
Absolutely.
and everyone have a good weekend, okay? All right.
Bye.